Thank you very much for having me here. But as I was walking in, today's April Fool's, so I'm not going to make any April Fool's joke, but it was beautiful outside. I was thinking, bad for you that you're stuck here. But after listening to the panel before this and this, I think you guys are the lucky ones, the people outside. It's been a fantastic conference. And as Landon was pointing out, vast amount of innovation that you just heard about batteries just now. So I think about innovation a lot. And I think about, when does innovation actually is good, meaning good for society? And it seems in a simplistic form it's good for society when first it's actually manufactured at scale, so it's affordable, so that also creates good jobs, so people benefit from it. It doesn't destroy the environment, or water, or air. And most importantly, people use it. People use the new technology. That is when a technology actually is good for society, at a minimum. And there are other. And so you can see that for technologies to work, we need to take a systems approach. This is what we do at WRI. We take a systems approach to the economic transition that is happening all over the world. And we look at where energy transition, what we're discussing here, which is a foundational transition. This transition happening, you've heard all day today, 90% of new energy that was built last year was renewable, a different, new kind of energy. 25% of automobile sales was EV. So this transition is taking place. And the question is that we ask, as we work in about 50 countries in the world, we look at how does the transition happen and how innovation plays a role. A vast amount of innovation is needed for this transition to happen in a way that we want and happens fast enough for us and our planet to survive. So I would like to argue with you that innovation that you just heard, which is a very specific technological innovation which we need at a vast quantity, but we also need innovation at the systems level. Like how do we actually transition in a different way, in a faster way? So I'm going to argue with you that at systems level, maybe there are three kinds of innovation is needed. The first kind of innovation is needed that we need to create different kind of solutions. We need to innovate on solutions. We don't need a better product, we need a product that is good for people, good for the planet, but also good for what's going to happen to our economy. So it creates jobs, as I said. So we need solutions. We don't have time to build one solution. We need solutions that do all these things at the same time. And I'm going to give you an example what do you mean by that. You've heard examples of the United States all day. We work, as I said, all over the world. I want to pick an example from a different country, from India, where I'm from. And India, what has many cities that are among the list of most polluted cities in the world. Air quality is terrible in Delhi, where I grew up, but many other cities. And one of the reasons for this pollution, which is absolutely terrible for everyone, for children, you will be aghast if you saw these x-rays that you can actually see on the internet of children. The question is, so one of the things is diesel fumes that happen. So one idea was to actually change the buses that run in all the cities to electric buses. So the central government had a program to subsidize these, as money governments do. But there we worked with them, and we did something very different with the government. We actually worked with 5 different cities across the country and aggregated a procurement of 5,500 buses in one go. And that single procurement changed the price of buses, the electric buses, 30% lower than diesel buses in the 8-year lifetime of use of buses. Think about that for a minute. A single way of procuring something differently actually created a whole different price point. But not only that, it created an industry of electric buses that actually was just about to beginning there, created jobs, but most importantly, cleaned air for kids and people across. So there are systems approach of doing many things together that we need to do more. We have to build solution that is good for people, nature, and climate at the same time. The second is innovation in policy. The panel before this, not London, just before that, talked a lot about the innovation that we need in policy, which is absolutely true. That policies in transmission that you heard from land, just a few weeks back, we actually set up a new center in WRI called WRI Polski Center for Energy Transition, with the specific goal of removing these barriers that exist from the energy transition to accelerate energy transition. This is in partnership with Michael Polsky, who leads Invenergy. Actually, the co-founder of Invenergy, Jim Murphy, will be here tomorrow. You can ask him more about it. But we put it together so that we can actually accelerate the most sensible energy transition that's possible in different geographies. How to remove barriers from transmission, from land, from trained workforce, from finance, from critical minerals. Our observation is these policies happen in different silos. People who do land don't think about critical mineral. People who do critical mineral don't think about labor. People who do labor don't think about what is needed for transmission. But for system to work, these need to come together, and there is a lot of need for policy innovation for this transition to accelerate. Finally, the thing about finance. I think how we finance things needs to change in a dramatic way. Finance is a critical kind of accelerator to a change in some places not, when it's not finance. I'll give you an example of thinking about the battery story that you just heard. One of the big questions in the world is actually of critical minerals needed for storage in batteries. This was a great innovation that you just on lithium. But the adage goes, the story goes that half the lithium that is needed in the world is in our junk junk drawers. Meaning it's actually already there to be recycled and remined. And we need to think differently. Apple, for example, I'm sure more than half of you actually have an Apple phone in you. In 2003, about 2-3 years back, had 20% recycled product in their phone. They say they actually can, for one ton of recycled phones, they can get as much gold and copper than 20,000 tons of ore. Of course, Apple has a system of very easily getting the phones back because they have a repurchase program. But this circularity of creating this supply chain backwards, these are the kind of ways we need to finance things differently, which is actually not being financed properly right now, the circularity. But if we have to take a systems approach to the outcome we need so that our finance also works to support this. So only one thing I want to argue with you is that as we think about this transition that you've heard all day, we need to think about innovation maybe at a different level, maybe a different definition of it, that actually brings solution innovation, policy innovation, and finance innovation together to accelerate this transition. And this transition that we're talking about, the energy transition we're talking about, that's connected with our transportation, how we produce things, our industries. The economy that we live in today, meaning in 2025, is an economy that is based on 200 years of very successful hydrocarbon-based economy that has produced not only wealth, the biggest welfare gain in the history of humankind for the last 200 years. This is where we are. So this is everything we do is connected with the current energy system. So this transition that we're talking about to new energy, new systems, it's going to take work and innovation. But it will happen normally, or to save the world, we need to do it in 25 years. That is the task ahead for us. For do it in 25 years, what has happened in 200 years requires enormous amount of ingenuity and innovation. And I hope you would agree that this conference is exactly the place we bring people have come together to think about that. Thank you for listening.